Assessment of weakness. The massive Confederation survey vessel hung in Earth's orbit like an obsidian needle against the stars. Inside the observation deck, Supreme Observer Vexilon's 6 slender limbs twitched with barely contained disappointment as he studied the data streaming across his neural interface. "Such fragile creatures," he muttered, his metallic voice echoing in the chamber. "Their musculature is pathetically underdeveloped, their skeletal structure brittle, and they lack any natural defensive capabilities." Science Director Meridian floated toward him, her translucent body pulsing with bioluminescent patterns of calculated agreement. "Indeed, Supreme Observer, they require nearly 8 hours of unconsciousness per planetary rotation. Their reproductive cycle is inefficient. They cannot tolerate temperature variations exceeding 60 degrees on their own scale. They are susceptible to thousands of microbial threats. They cannot regenerate damaged tissue efficiently." Vexilon's upper eye cluster rotated to examine the approaching human shuttle. The small vessel moved with careful precision toward the Confederation docking bay. "And yet they've managed to achieve spaceflight," he noted with mild curiosity. "Merely through technological dependency," Meridian dismissed. "They compensate for biological inadequacy through artificial means. Our preliminary classification places them as a Category 4 species, physically non-threatening with moderate technological capability." The docking clamps secured the human shuttle with a gentle hiss that made Vexilon's sensory appendages twitch with distaste. His own people, the Arcturans, connected their ships with the satisfying crash of superior engineering. Everything about these humans seemed delicate, from their vessels to their fragile forms. Inside the shuttle, Ambassador Elena Chen straightened her uniform and steadied her breathing. After 15 years in diplomatic service, she'd never faced a challenge of this magnitude. Earth's future in the galactic community would be shaped by this meeting. "Remember," she told the 3 diplomats accompanying her, "they've been studying us for months. They think they know everything about humanity, but they've never actually spoken with us. First impressions matter." Chen had read the preliminary reports. The Confederation classified species primarily on physical capabilities, evolutionary advantages, and technological development. Humans were going to start with a disadvantage. "Let's show them what they can't measure in a laboratory," she said. The meeting chamber was clearly designed to intimidate. The ceiling soared nearly 40 feet high, and the alien representatives sat on elevated platforms, forcing the humans to look up at them. Chen noted how the seats provided for her delegation were proportionally low, making them appear even smaller. Supreme Observer Vexilon's voice reverberated through the translator matrix. "The Galactic Confederation acknowledges Earth's representatives. We have completed our evaluation of your species and are prepared to offer you protected status under our oversight." Chen felt her jaw tighten, but kept her voice steady. "With respect, Supreme Observer, we've come to discuss full membership in the Confederation, not protectorate status." A ripple of what might have been amusement spread through the alien delegates. Vexilon's translator crackled with dismissive tones. "Full membership? Your species can barely survive without constant life support on your own planet. You require artificial heating and cooling. You sleep for a third of each day. Your musculature atrophies without constant use. Your digestive systems are inefficient. Your senses are dull compared to even the most primitive Confederation members. Our differences make us unique, not inferior," Chen replied, maintaining unbroken eye contact with Vexilon's primary visual cluster. "Humanity has much to offer the Confederation." Science Director Meridian floated forward, projecting holographic displays of human anatomical data. "You lack exoskeletons. Your epidermis tears easily. Your teeth are inadequate for defense. Your nails are functionally useless as weapons. You possess no venom delivery systems, no electrical discharge capabilities, no regenerative healing beyond the most basic level." Chen waited patiently for the scientific diminishment to finish. "And yet," she said calmly, "we've built civilizations spanning our entire planet, developed spaceflight, created art that expresses complex emotions, composed music that speaks across cultural boundaries, and cultivated philosophies that question the nature of existence itself. There's more to a species' value than physical capabilities. Through machines, Vexilon dismissed. You rely on artificial assistance for everything. The Confederation has classified humans as a Category 4 species, physically non-threatening with moderate technological capability. We offer protection, not partnership. Chen stood up, making her small chair scrape against the floor. The sound echoed in the chamber. Supreme Observer, humanity respectfully declines protected status. We will continue our petition for full membership based on our innovation, adaptability, and cultural achievements. You would reject our protection. Vexilon's upper limbs twitched in what might have been surprise or amusement. We don't need protection. We need allies, partners, equals. Chen gestured to her team, and they all stood. We'll return to Earth and prepare a comprehensive presentation of human capabilities for the Confederation's review. As they walked back to their shuttle, her youngest team member whispered, "They think we're weak." Chen smiled slightly. They think a lot of things. They haven't seen what humans can do when challenged. They look at our bodies and see limitations. They should be looking at our minds and seeing possibilities. The shuttle detached from the alien vessel with the same gentle precision that had disappointed Vexilon. As they flew back toward Earth, Chen watched the massive Confederation vessel grow smaller against the stars. She knew this was just the beginning. Send a message to the Security Council, she told her communications officer. The Confederation has classified us as physically non-threatening. We need to prepare for the possibility that not everyone out there will see that as a reason for peace. 3 months after the diplomatic meeting, Captain Maya Rodriguez stood at the command center of Earth's newest orbital defense platform. Her eyes tracked the holographic display as 3 unidentified vessels approached the human mining outpost on Europa. "They're testing our borders again," she said to her second-in-command, Lieutenant Jackson. "Third incursion this week." The Thoraxians, known for their massive chitinous bodies and territorial aggression, had been pushing into human space ever since the Confederation classified humanity as a Category 4 species. They seemed to view Earth's outposts as easy targets, ripe for intimidation. Rodriguez composed another formal complaint to the Confederation, knowing it would likely be dismissed like all the others. The Confederation treated human security concerns with the same patronizing attitude they applied to everything else about humanity, as the exaggerated fears of a species that needed protection but lacked the wisdom to accept it. "Captain," her sensor officer called out, "2 more Thoraxian vessels just appeared near Europa's southern hemisphere." Rodriguez activated the communication array. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force to Thoraxian vessels. You are approaching restricted space. Change course immediately." The response came quickly, the Thoraxian commander's harsh voice filled with undisguised contempt. "Human captain, we patrol where we wish. The Confederation has declared this sector open space. Europa is a registered Earth outpost," Rodriguez replied firmly. "We have mining rights and settlement permits recognized by interstellar law." "Permits given to a Category 4 species," the Thoraxian commander chittered. "Such permissions can be reconsidered." Rodriguez muted the communication and turned to her crew. "Battle stations. Quiet running protocol. Let's show them what a Category 4 species can do with proper planning." The defense platform's external lights dimmed as it switched to minimal power emissions, while the Thoraxian ships scanned for the usual energy signatures of active weapon systems. Rodriguez's crew was deploying automated defense drones using minimal thruster bursts that blended with Europa's natural outgassing. "They're scanning us," the sensor officer reported. "Reading us is powered down." "Good," Rodriguez smiled grimly. "Let them think we're hiding." The Thoraxian ships moved closer, probably expecting the humans to call the Confederation for protection. Instead, Rodriguez waited until they crossed into Europa's defense perimeter. "Now," she ordered. Dozens of small defensive platforms activated simultaneously, Surrounding the Thoraxian ships with a web of targeting lasers, Rodriguez reopened the channel. Thoraxian vessels, you are now surrounded by automated defense systems. Each platform carries enough firepower to disable a ship twice your size. I suggest you reconsider your patrol route. The Thoraxian commander's voice lost its mocking tone. You dare threaten ships of the Thoraxian Imperium. The Confederation will hear of this. They'll be back, she said quietly. And next time, they'll bring more ships. She composed a detailed report for Earth Command and the Confederation, knowing exactly what would happen. The Thoraxians would claim harassment by a lesser species. The Confederation would scold Earth for aggressive behavior unbecoming of a protected species, and the incursions would continue with increasing boldness. In her office later that night, Rodriguez reviewed the sensor data from the encounter. The Thoraxian ships had been carrying far more weapons than a simple patrol needed. They had been testing Europa's defenses, looking for weaknesses. She sent a private message to Ambassador Chen. The Thoraxians are planning something significant. The Confederation won't help us because they think we're weak. We need to prepare for conflict. Chen's response came quickly. Keep gathering evidence. Keep protecting our people. When the Thoraxians finally show their true intentions, we'll be ready, and the Confederation will learn that underestimating humanity was their greatest mistake. Rodriguez looked out her viewport at the stark beauty of Europa below. The outpost was home to 5,000 humans now, all of them believing in the dream of peaceful expansion into space. She would not let the Thoraxians destroy that dream. Let them think we're weak, she whispered to herself. Let them think we're helpless. When the time comes, they'll learn what humanity can do when pushed too far. 3 days later, Europa's sensors detected a massive Thoraxian fleet emerging from hyperspace without warning or declaration. The first attack had begun. Revelation of strength. Lieutenant Commander James Reeves crouched behind the twisted remains of a habitat module as another Thoraxian energy blast lit up Europa's night sky. The attack had come without warning. A massive fleet jumping into the Jupiter system and launching an immediate ground assault on the mining outpost. Their forces had expected the small human garrison to surrender immediately. They had been wrong. Status report, Reeves whispered into his tactical comm. The responses came quickly from his scattered team of 40 defenders. Team Alpha holding the North Ridge. Team Beta maintaining control of the processing plant. Team Delta moving through the subsurface tunnel network. Reeves checked his tactical display. Over 300 Thoraxian warriors were attempting to capture the outpost's primary facilities. The aliens had expected an easy victory against what they considered a physically inferior species. Instead, they'd walked into a carefully prepared defensive network that Captain Rodriguez had insisted on building despite Confederation disapproval. They're moving toward the main storage facility, his tactical officer reported. Large group, at least 60 warriors. Reeves smiled grimly. Just as we predicted. Spring the trap. The Thoraxian warriors, each standing nearly 9 feet tall and protected by natural chitinous armor, marched confidently down the outpost's main access corridor. Their heavy weapons were designed to smash through conventional fortifications, but they weren't prepared for what happened next. The corridor's floor panels suddenly retracted beneath them, dropping the entire group into a prepared pit filled with rapidly expanding foam. Before they could react, hidden panels in the walls opened, revealing automated turrets that fired specialized adhesive compounds, quickly hardening and immobilizing the aliens. Your natural armor makes you strong, Reeves muttered, but it also makes you heavy and predictable. His comm unit crackled with an incoming transmission from the Thoraxian commander. You primitive humans, face us in honorable combat. Reeves kept his voice calm as he replied, We are facing you in combat, just not the way you expected. Across the outpost, his teams continued their asymmetric tactics. Team Alpha used sonic disruptors calibrated to the specific frequency that disoriented Thoraxian neural systems. Team Beta flooded sectors with specialized smoke that blocked the aliens' enhanced vision capabilities. Team Delta emerged from maintenance tunnels to plant localized EMP devices before disappearing again. In orbit above Europa, a Confederation observation vessel monitored the battle. Supreme Observer Vexilon stood at his viewing station, his limbs twitching with increasing agitation as he watched the tactical displays. "Impossible," he muttered. "They should have been overrun immediately." The human defenders weren't fighting the way the Confederation had anticipated. Instead of meeting the Thoraxians' superior strength directly, they were using the environment itself as a weapon. Every corridor became a potential trap, every chamber a possible ambush point. "Their tactics make no sense," Science Director Meridian observed, her bioluminescent patterns showing confusion. "They're avoiding direct confrontation entirely." "No," Vexilon corrected slowly. "They're fighting according to their evolutionary background. They were never apex predators on their world. They were persistence hunters and problem solvers." Back on the surface, Reeves moved his teams into their final positions. The Thoraxians had lost over 100 warriors without capturing a single major facility. Their frustration was making them reckless. "All teams," Reeves commanded, "execute final protocol." The outpost's lights and environmental systems suddenly shut down, plunging everything into darkness and momentary zero gravity as the artificial gravity generators powered down. The Thoraxians activated their enhanced vision systems, only to be blinded by dozens of magnesium flares launched from hidden positions. In their confusion, they didn't notice the small drones attaching themselves to their armored exoskeletons. "Now," Reeves ordered. The drones activated, sending precisely calibrated electrical pulses through the Thoraxians' conductive exoskeletons. Within minutes, most of the alien force was immobilized, their mighty bodies betrayed by their own biological advantages. The Thoraxian commander's voice roared over the comm. "This is not how warriors fight." "No," Reeves agreed. "This is how humans fight. We use what we have. We adapt. We overcome." He watched as the remaining Thoraxian forces retreated to their ships, abandoning their paralyzed companions. In orbit, Supreme Observer Vexilon received the battle reports with increasing disbelief. "A garrison of 40 humans," he said slowly, "just defeated a Thoraxian assault force of 300 elite warriors." Science Director Meridian struggled to explain. "They didn't win with physical strength, Observer. They used strategy, preparation, and intelligence." Vexilon finished. He stared at the tactical displays, finally beginning to understand. The Confederation had classified humans as weak because they lacked natural weapons and armor, but they had failed to consider what humans had instead: the ability to turn anything and everything into an advantage. "Send a priority message to the Confederation Council," Vexilon ordered. "We may need to reconsider our assessment of humanity." But the battle for Europa was just the beginning. The Thoraxian Imperium, enraged by their defeat at the hands of what they considered an inferior species, had dispatched their main battle fleet. 3 massive dreadnoughts emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Jupiter system, each carrying thousands of warriors and enough firepower to reduce the Europa outpost to molecular dust. On Earth, the Defense Council convened an emergency session. Ambassador Chen addressed the assembled military leaders. "The Confederation still refuses to intervene," she reported grimly. "They're calling it a regional dispute that protected species must resolve internally." General Haruki Tanaka, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, nodded. "Then we handle this ourselves. Activate Operation Shadow Step." 500,000 kilometers from the Thoraxian dreadnoughts, 6 small stealth vessels dropped their cloaking fields just long enough to launch their payloads. 30 pods, each containing a single human operative in an advanced stealth suit. Major Diana Patel floated silently through space, her suit absorbing radar and thermal signatures. Behind her, 29 other operatives from Earth's Special Tactical Response Division drifted like shadows against the stars. Ahead loomed their target, the massive central dreadnought of the Thoraxian fleet. "Remember," Patel whispered through the tactical comm, "we only need to reach the command center." silent approach, non-lethal takedowns, unless absolutely necessary. Her team acknowledged with single clicks. They had trained for this mission for months, studying Thoraxian ship designs and practicing in zero-gravity simulations. Now it was real. The Thoraxians had excellent security systems, but they were designed to detect ships and missiles, not individual humans in stealth suits. Patel's team slipped through a maintenance airlock using access codes harvested from the Europa engagement. Inside the dreadnought, they moved like ghosts. The Thoraxians were large and powerful, but their size made them easy to detect and difficult to maneuver in tight spaces. Humans, being smaller and more agile, could move almost silently when properly trained. "Contact," whispered Torres, the team's sensor specialist. 4 Thoraxian guards ahead. Patel raised her hand, signaling the team to hold position. The guards passed by their hiding spot in a junction conduit, never noticing the humans pressed against the ceiling in the shadows. "They always forget to look up," Ramirez, the team's tech expert, commented quietly over the comm. "Their heavy exoskeletons make vertical movement difficult. They don't expect anyone else to use three-dimensional tactics." The team reached the secondary command center after 30 minutes of careful movement. 6 Thoraxian officers worked at the main control interfaces, their backs to the ventilation shaft, where Patel's team had gathered. Patel gave the signal. Her team moved with perfect coordination, placing neural disruptors at precise points on each Thoraxian's body. The massive aliens collapsed without a sound. "Begin the upload," Patel ordered. Ramirez connected their specialized virus to the ship's computer network. It was designed to spread to all 3 dreadnoughts through their tactical communication links. 5 minutes until the virus is fully uploaded, Ramirez reported. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. "Intruder alert in Section 12, boomed a voice in the Thoraxian language. "All warriors to battle stations." They found our entry point, Patel realized. Plan B finished the upload. Everyone else, defensive positions. The first Thoraxian warriors burst through the command center doors seconds later, their weapons ready. They found their officers unconscious and no intruders visible. "Above you," Patel called out. The Thoraxians looked up just as Patel's team dropped from their hiding spots on the ceiling. Neural disruptors struck multiple targets before the aliens could react. Those who evaded the first attack found themselves facing humans who moved with impossible speed in the tight confines of the command center, exploiting every blind spot in the Thoraxians' visual range. "Upload complete," Ramirez announced. "Fall back. Alternate routes," Patel ordered. "They'll be guarding our entry point." The team split up, each member taking the separate path back to the extraction point. The Thoraxians searched frantically for them, but their sensors and tactics were calibrated for opponents of their own size and capabilities. The humans were too small, too quiet, and too adaptable to be detected by conventional means. From their escape pods, Patel's team watched as their virus spread through the Thoraxian fleet's communication network. One by one, the massive dreadnoughts lost power, their weapons systems shutting down and their engines going idle. The virus hadn't destroyed anything. It had simply reconfigured the ship's operating systems to prioritize life support over all other functions, effectively neutralizing the fleet without harming a single Thoraxian. In his observation vessel, Supreme Observer Vexilon watched with growing amazement as 30 humans disabled 3 Thoraxian dreadnoughts without firing a single conventional weapon. "How?" Science Director Meridian asked, her bioluminescent patterns showing complete confusion. "How did they even get aboard?" "We made the same mistake the Thoraxians did," Vexilon replied slowly. "We thought their small size made them weak. Instead, it made them perfectly suited for infiltration. Their perceived physical weaknesses are actually tactical advantages." He watched as human vessels moved in to secure the disabled Thoraxian dreadnoughts. "Send an urgent message to the Confederation Council," he ordered. "Reclassify humans immediately. They are not a Category 4 species. They represent a completely new classification, physically adaptive with exceptional strategic capabilities." 2 weeks later, Ambassador Elena Chen stood once again in the Confederation Council chamber. This time, the seats provided for the human delegation were at the same height as those of the other species. Supreme Observer Vexilon addressed the council. The Confederation has erred in its assessment of humanity. We evaluated them solely on physical metrics and classified them as non-threatening. In doing so, we failed to recognize their true capabilities. He activated a holographic display showing footage from both the Europa defense and the Dreadnought infiltration. Humans do not fight like any other known species. They do not rely on natural weapons or armor. Instead, they transform their environment into weapons. They exploit weaknesses others don't even recognize. They turn their own physical limitations into tactical advantages. The council chambers remained silent as the footage played. I moved to reclassify humans as a Category 1 species, strategically significant with unique adaptive capabilities, Vexilon concluded. Furthermore, I recommend that Earth be granted full membership in the Confederation, not as a protected species, but as equals. After the vote passed unanimously, Chen approached Vexilon in the chamber's antechamber. You've changed your perspective, Supreme Observer, she noted. The evidence demanded it. Vexilon replied. We measured your muscles, your bones, your reflexes, but we failed to measure your minds, your adaptability, your determination. There are many kinds of strength, Chen said. Indeed, Vexilon's upper limbs moved in what might have been respect. The Thoraxians learned this at great cost. The rest of us are fortunate to have learned it through observation rather than experience. Chen smiled slightly. That's another human trait, Supreme Observer. We prefer to resolve conflicts without fighting when possible, but when forced to fight, we do so to win. As she walked back to join her delegation, Chen thought about how the Confederation had initially dismissed humanity as physically weak. They had been right about one thing. Humans lacked the natural weapons and armor of many species, but they had failed to understand what humans had developed instead: the ability to adapt, to innovate, and to overcome challenges through intelligence and determination. The moment aliens had seen humans in battle, they'd finally understood. Physical strength was just one kind of power, and not always the most decisive.